Hello. We, the editors of Advocate Media, every week, together with lawyers from partner organizations, conduct an analytical review of the rulemaking initiatives of state bodies. These initiatives may have an impact on civil rights and the legal environment for the activities of a civil society organization. It is important to analyze the events now and take preventive actions to protect the rights and interests of citizens in the future.
This review was prepared over the past week of events by attorneys from our partner organization, the International Center for Not-for-Profit Law. Briefly in our analytical review. 1. A single portal for public discussion of draft regulatory legal acts is identified as a single source of public discussion of draft regulatory legal acts initiated by the Cabinet of Ministers. 2. Amendments to the law on the People's Legislative Initiative in the Kyrgyz Republic. 3. A draft law on amendments to certain legislative acts of the Kyrgyz Republic, the Code of Offences, the law on state-guaranteed legal aid, was submitted for public discussion. 4. The draft law on volunteer activity was adopted in 3 readings. 5. Comments on the new concept of the draft law on mass media. The single portal of public discussion of the draft normative legal acts is defined as a single source of public discussion of the draft normative legal acts initiated by the Cabinet of Ministers. Order number 45 of the Cabinet of Ministers adopted on February 10, 2023, establishes that the common portal of public discussion of the draft regulatory legal acts, hereinafter the common portal, is the official website of the Cabinet of Ministers for public discussion of the draft regulatory legal acts initiated by the Cabinet of Ministers, executive authorities. In accordance with the above-mentioned order, state agencies are instructed to ensure public discussion of the draft normative legal acts under development on the single portal, with simultaneous posting of reference justifications, comparative tables and results of regulatory impact analysis, in cases established by the law of the Kyrgyz Republic, on normative legal acts of the Kyrgyz Republic. Provide answers to citizens and organizations who posted comments to the draft regulations under discussion on the unified portal, not later than 10 working days from the date of completion of the public discussion of the draft regulatory act. Send, in accordance with the schedule approved by the Ministry of Justice of the Kyrgyz Republic, information about the most important draft normative legal acts under development in the state and official languages for placement in the news block on the unified portal. To stop the practice of sending draft normative legal acts to the presidential administration, with a request to place them on the official website of the Cabinet of Ministers for public discussion. At the same time, the Ministry of Justice has been instructed to submit within 2 months to the presidential administration relevant draft laws that would make it mandatory for other normative legal acts to be posted on the single portal. In addition to the Cabinet of Ministers, the rule-making subjects include President, Jigorku Kenish, the National Bank, the Central Election Commission for Elections and Referendums, representative bodies of local self-government. Also, the subjects having the right of legislative initiative established by Article 85 of the Constitution of the Kyrgyz Republic and lawmaking entities specified in Article 5 of the Law of the Kyrgyz Republic on normative legal acts of the Kyrgyz Republic are recommended to ensure posting of draft normative legal acts being developed on the unified portal. It should be noted that the single portal began to function in August 2020 as part of the obligations of the Kyrgyz Republic as a member country of the International Initiative Open Government Partnership. The unified portal was developed and implemented with the active participation of representatives of civil society. The text of the order is available on the website of the Ministry of Justice. Amendments to the law on the People's Legislative Initiative in the Kyrgyz Republic came into force. On February 6, 2023, the President signed amendments to the law on People's Legislative Initiative in the Kyrgyz Republic. According to the amendments, the provisions of the law on People's Legislative Initiative of the Kyrgyz Republic are brought in line with Article 116 of the Constitution of the Kyrgyz Republic, which describes the procedure for amending and supplementing the provisions of the 1st, 2nd and 5th sections of the Constitution. In addition, the introduced amendments give the initiative group of citizens the right to determine the source of publication of the draft law in the national print media or on the unified portal and the official website of the Ministry of Justice. In addition, Article 6 of the above law was supplemented with the following list of additional documents to the application for registration of the initiative group. 1. Copies of passports of members of the initiative group. 2. Expert opinions prepared as a result of specialized expertise, if necessary. 3. Regulatory impact analysis, if necessary. At the same time, the Ministry of Justice is empowered to approve the procedure for registration of the initiative group, for realization of the right of people's legislative initiative, and to determine the procedure for keeping the register of initiative groups. Other amendments are of a clarifying nature. A draft law on amendments to some legislative acts of the Kyrgyz Republic, the Code of Offences, the Law of the Kyrgyz Republic, on state-guaranteed legal aid, was submitted for public discussion. On February 17, 2023, the Ministry of Justice posted on the Uniform Portal the draft law on amendments to some legislative acts of the Kyrgyz Republic, the Code of Kyrgyz Republic on Offences, the Law of the Kyrgyz Republic, on state-guaranteed legal aid. The draft law proposes to establish that citizens of the Kyrgyz Republic, foreign citizens, stateless persons, refugees have the right to receive qualified legal assistance, including in cases of offences. Qualified legal assistance in cases of offences is proposed to be provided to persons, in case of detention, without taking into account their annual income. If a person is identified as a suspect in the commission of an offence for which arrest is provided, such a person is also guaranteed qualified legal aid. At the same time, the condition for providing such assistance is income, which shall not exceed 60 times the minimum wage established annually by the law on the national budget. As it is noted in the explanatory note to the draft law, it is proposed to set forth a new version of Part 4 of Article 14 of the law, according to which qualified legal aid will be provided for vulnerable people, disabled persons, the poor and indigent, children in a difficult life situation, etc., in all categories of civil cases, without taking into account their income. In addition, the bill proposes amendments to the replacement of lawyers and the suspension of contracts with them for the provision of legal aid. Thus, the list of grounds for replacement of a lawyer is supplemented by such grounds as the discovery of a conflict of interest in the case. Meanwhile, the current law on state-guaranteed legal aid and the proposed legislation do not disclose the definition of conflict of interest and do not define the conditions for application of this ground. The bill also proposes to introduce an additional ground for suspension of the contract for legal assistance with a lawyer. Such grounds would be a complaint about the quality of legal assistance and non-compliance with the requirements of law and professional ethics. The draft law on volunteer activity was adopted in 3 readings. On February 15 this year, Jigorku Kenish adopted a draft law on volunteer activities in the 3rd reading. According to Article 58 of the Law on Regulations of the Jigorku Kenish of the Kyrgyz Republic, the final text of the adopted draft law in the state and official languages shall be sent to the President for signing and publishing within 14 working days. In accordance with Article 87 of the Constitution of the Kyrgyz Republic, the President signs or returns it with his objections to the Jigorku Kenish for reconsideration no later than 1 month from the date of receipt of the bill. Comments on the concept of the draft law on mass media, presented by the Presidential Administration, were prepared. Lawyers of PF Media Policy Institute, who are members of the working group on finalizing the draft law on mass media, prepared objections to the concept of the said draft law, which was presented by the Presidential Administration. The draft law was posted for public discussion on September 28, 2022, on the website of the Cabinet of Ministers by the Information Policy Service of the Presidential Administration. As a result of public discussion, a number of representatives of civil society and mass media criticized the bill, saying that it restricts freedom of speech in the Kyrgyz Republic. The shortcomings of the draft law were reflected in previous issues of the newsletter. A joint working group headed by Murat Yukishov, head of the Legal Support Department of the Presidential Administration, was established to finalize the draft law. Within the framework of this working group, the representatives of the Presidential Administration prepared and submitted a concept of the draft law.
Thank you for your attention. Please like and subscribe to our Advocate Media channel to receive important, reliable analytics and unique content on events in Central Asia.